everyone, welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be sharing with y'all all the books that I read in August. Pull up my stats really quick. So for August, I read 8 books for a total of 2,766 pages read, which is about 90 pages read per day. All of the books I read were by female authors. One book was a reread in preparation for its sequel. I had 1 5-star read, 4 4-star reads, 1 3.5-star read, and 2 3-star reads. So before I get into the details of each book that I read this month, I do want to say that I did start a jewelry business, so because of that it did dip into my reading time. There was some days where I didn't read at all, some days where I read a lot. So because of that, that did affect how many books I read this month, but I am really happy with my jewelry business, so I'm not going to stop doing that. But for future months, I probably won't be reading as much as I usually do because of that. So the first book that I read this month was All the Missing Girls by Miranda. This book was okay. I don't want to say too much about it because quite frankly it didn't stick with me. I did read this book over a month ago as well, so it was kind of boring. I don't really remember what it's about, but I'm not going to rule out Miranda right now because I do have 2 other books by her that I still have to read. Just because this one wasn't good for me doesn't mean that the other 2 won't be, so I'm still going to read those, but this one was just, I wasn't feeling it. This was one of my 3 stars. Next, I finally got my hands on The Dry by Harper. You'll know that I found the second book at a used bookstore a couple months back, but I could never find the first one, and it was available on Amazon, but they wanted like so much money for it plus shipping, and I didn't want to do that. So I found this book on Pango Books, and I had never used Pango Books before, so because it was my first purchase, I got $5 off and the book was $5. So I ended up just paying shipping, so it worked out really well. This book was good. I've been wanting to read it for a while, and the third one comes out in February, so I felt like I finally had to read this series that's been on my TBR for literally almost 2 years now. But this book was good. It wasn't as good as I was hoping it was, but this one was definitely better than the second one. I gave this one 4 stars. I don't remember too much of what it was about, other than it's just like the main character is a detective named Aaron Falk, and there is drama because people think his dad killed someone. I'm not gonna go too much into it. The Dry, Harper, 4 stars. Next was a reread, The Family Upstairs by Jewell. This one was 4 stars when I read it the first time. It was 4 stars this time. Not much to say about it because I read this in June 2021, so I will link that video up above and down below so that you guys can see my thoughts on it when I read it in June of 2021. Next, I read Every Summer After, and y'all, this book, it's really hyped up and it deserves all the hype it's getting. I loved this one. I was actually pretty shocked to see some 1-star reviews on Goodreads and people saying that they DNF'd it because it was just like every other romance they read. I didn't think so. I thought it was pretty cute. I enjoyed this one a lot, which was definitely what I needed because I feel like, and I said this last month as well, but I feel like I've been in a reading slump and I'm having a hard time finding books that are really keeping my interest. This was definitely a book that kept my interest. I read it really quickly and it was exactly what I needed. Perfect summer read, so I'm glad I read it in August because now it's almost fall and I'm ready for like the dark academia books because those scream fall vibes to me for some reason. I don't know why, but this book was really good. I needed a good romance that would hook me. Normally when I'm in a reading slump, I'll try to find Colleen Hoover books, but every book that I own that's by Colleen Hoover I've already read, and anytime I go to the store I only find Colleen Hoover books that I already own and have read. So this one was good. I'm really glad I read this. I highly recommend reading this. Even though summer's kind of over at this point, if you read it in like December or January, that's fine too. I loved this one. 5 stars. Next, I read Force of Nature by Harper. This is the second book in the Aaron Falk series. This one was not as good, and I've noticed that I'm not the only one that feels that way based off some Goodreads reviews. I'm not going to go into too much detail about this book because that would spoil things that happened in the first book, but this one I gave 3 stars. Next, I read You're Invited by Amanda J. Attissa. Attissa. I went into this book thinking it was going to be like The Guest List by Lucy Foley, which I absolutely loved that book. I believe I read it in February of 2021, so I will link that video up above and down below as well. And I will say that while it was similar, the concept was similar, it had differing factors, which I liked, because I don't like when I'm reading a book and I'm like, wow, I feel like I've read this book before, because it's pretty much the same as another book I read. This one had differing factors, which was great. I enjoyed that. I gave this one 4 stars. I definitely want to read her other books now. I believe Amanda J. Attissa has another book out. It's not book of the month though, so it's not gonna match, and y'all know it has to match. Yeah, she has one other book called My Sweet Girl, and I definitely want to read that one. So hopefully I can find it in hardcover. But yeah, You're Invited, I gave 4 stars. It was really, really good. Next, I read The Family Remains by Lisa Jewell. This is the second and final book, I hope, in the Family Upstairs series. I personally feel like The Family Upstairs could have been left as a standalone. This one was just okay. I feel like it kind of was unnecessary. Like, I'm glad that she wrote it, but if you've only read The Family Upstairs, I feel like there's not really any major cliffhangers that need to be answered in a second book, but this one was okay. I gave this one 3.5 stars. If there is a third one though, I'm not going to read it, because this one didn't even need to be made, so a third one definitely won't even need to be made. But I do enjoy Lisa Jewell a lot. I will read anything she writes, but sometimes they can just be left alone. They don't need to be written. Anyways, I gave this one 3.5 stars. The last book I read is The Last Housewife by Ashley Winstead. The second that I saw this book was coming out, after all the hype of In My Dreams I Hold a Knife, which I never read and I want to. I just never got my hands on the book and I just never read it, but I want to. I pre-ordered this one the second I saw it was coming out, and let's just say this is up there on one of the most effed up books I've ever read. I gave this one 4 stars. This book it starts the book with all the triggers. Like, it tells you content warning, suicide, rape, physical violence, sexual violence, trauma, self-harm, misogyny, gender essentialism, drug use, because it follows a sex cult type thing. So basically what it is college freshmen, and I believe they're going into their sophomore year, so they're able to live off campus. So they're like 3 best friends, and when they live off campus, they need another roommate to be able to afford the rent, or it doesn't really matter, that's not really important. But this 4th friend they meet, she's kind of different, kind of shy, but they enjoy her company. Well, one day she says that her dad wants to meet her friends and her roommates, people that she lives with, which they don't find weird, because of course your parent wants to meet the people that you spend a lot of your time with. So they go out to dinner with him, and he's kind of strange, but like, so is Rachel, the roommate that they live with. So they didn't think anything of it until things start to hit the fan with Rachel's dad. And I'm just saying, once you get to that point, because it starts out kind of slow, once you get to that point, it is crazy. It's dark and twisty, and it's up there on pretty effed up, and I was loving every second of it. So I gave this one 4 stars, because it wasn't like the best book I've ever read, but it definitely kept me hooked. So it just made me want to read In My Dreams I Hold a Knife even more. So I'm just really, really glad I read this, and I definitely recommend it if you can handle the triggers, of course. Triggers don't really bother me. Luckily, I do appreciate that they're written in here. The only trigger that really affects me is animal cruelty. I can't do animal cruelty. Even though it's a fictional book and it's not actually happening, I can't do it. And I haven't read any books with like child abuse, like adolescent and teen abuse I've read about, but like as far as like child, like 5 and younger, I have not read about. I don't know if I'd be able to handle that either. But this book I was able to handle. So if you're able to handle those triggers, I definitely recommend reading this. So those are all the books that I read in August. I don't know how much reading I will get done in September, because September is my son's birthday month, and this time we no longer live in the same state or within a driving proximity to our family. So our family is coming to visit for my son's birthday, and they're going to be here. My mother-in-law is coming for 9 days, and my family is coming for 5 days. So I don't know how much reading I'll get done, let alone filming. I was not able to film a lot in August either. As you could tell, I went from filming my August TBR and my July wrap-up to filming my August wrap-up and my September TBR. So with that being said, I don't even know if I will film a September TBR, because I don't have any any specific books that I want to read other than books that are on my shelf that I need to read. So I don't think I'll be filming a September TBR, but if you want to see what I'm currently reading, then follow me on Goodreads. I always have that linked down below. But thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please let me know in the comments what you read in August, what your favorite read was. Give this video a thumbs up, subscribe, and turn on post notifications to be notified every time I upload. And I'll see you in my next video. Bye!